Tuirmai ami bolu senyor Ramon Roca, husi Guifi Foundation Board, atu apresenta con aba Building Open Share Internet Access and Capacity for Timor-Leste. Obrigada. Fating no tempo a minha entrega.
Afternoon? No, okay, you hear me. My name is Ramon Roca. Agradecido for this. Agradecido, first of all, to TLNOG for organizing this great event. To the Forces de Defensa de Timor-Leste for hosting that event. Internet Society, APNIC. Truly thanks. I mean, it's not just for as a compliment, but as to be polite. It's also a true sentiment that I'm having, because when people think which is the most happy day in your life, most people could say, okay, when I got married or when I have my first son, things like that. Look, to myself, I'm quite a bit old, so it was a long time ago, and certainly those were very special days for me and will be for the whole my life. But today, I'm experiencing also very special sentiment that I would like to transmit, because being here, for a few years ago, talking about peering, these kind of concepts, local transits, and so on, was so difficult. And with redEsperansa.tl, we trying to push it, was so difficult, open source, and now in a day like today, That is okay. Because when you're talking about internet, yeah, you can go to Timor Plaza and get a SIM card there, and you say, oh yeah, of course. I mean, we will, no doubt. But it's a different conversation that we want to talk about BGP and those stuff. And today I really realized that we are advancing. Timor-Leste is rising. We still have a lot of work to be done, but things are going in the right direction. We are talking about the right topics. Establishing a local internet transit, those things are so important, and is the way to go. And so I get very positive feelings for today, and I wanted to start not just provide agradecimiento, and also being involved when talking about security with Forces de Defensa, the Timor-Leste, to have everybody involved is so important. So having said that, I don't know if the presentation is there. So it's not just a courtesy, it's a truly sentiment that I would like to transmit right now. Who we are about redEsperansa. First of all, although I came from Spain, but it was 3 years ago, and I feel like a Timorese. My apologies for not being able to speak in Tetun. I'm quite good in my mother language is Catalan. It's not. Although in Spanish, that's another complication. But my second home, if not the first, in many times, it's here. So, and I have to speak because Teles doesn't want to, and say, "Hey, Ramon, do it." But please look to myself. I'm representing the Timorese society, and in this particular case, regarding redEsperansa, is very much on the academia, schools, universities in Timor-Leste, which again 3 years ago were just users from the internet, but the internet itself started at the universities with ARPANET and become a commercial product sometime during the 90s. But already in the internet is as old as myself. I'm 60 years old. So and started very much in that space. And here in Timor-Leste, we were missing that, and we want to build this kind of because we want to participate in the building of the internet. And here there are a few logos, but tomorrow we will have a general meeting, and will be much more. Teles just noticed at me. Oh, there are people missing here. There are lots. I'm very happy of that. And we are again as well non-for-profit. So people think, oh, redEsperansa can provide internet. No, we build internet. It's a different concept. We are not an internet service provider, but we want to help in building the internet, and we are also finding ways. We'll explain you later. But we are not a private company. That's so important to understand as well. Oops. Okay. Challenges in Timor-Leste. You know, you don't have to. It's very expensive if you compare in any other country in the world. The service is lower. I mean, in other countries, we are talking about gigabit speeds or 10 gigabits speed reaching the homes. Here it's like looks like impossible. But I tell you, we will do in Timor-Leste. I don't know how long it's going to take, but we are here for achieving that goal. And there was no infrastructure, let's say, from the academia and the educational institutions' point of view. There was almost nothing. So what we are doing, and which is very much, the other day I was observing the voting for the Internet Society for what's called the special interest groups. You know, from time to time, Internet Society members will vote for what's the most important. And they mentioned affordable access, internet education, community networks infrastructures, is what, and cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. By the way, also thanks to all the speakers before, because those topics were very well covered. In the gray, I had artificial intelligence at the very last, because I said, okay, this is the one that we are not very much focusing, let's say, from redEsperansa perspective, but others do. Gabriel gave us a very nice example on that. And we, of course, when we have internet at the schools, we are teaching to the teachers how to use artificial intelligence, and is have to be so important. If not, teachers must, and students have to, it's important to use those tools. But we cannot, if internet is not affordable, if internet is not there. So, okay, we don't have a security problem if there is no internet. But so still, I'm happy actually to see that, because if you go in some other countries, affordability and availability is not longer a problem. But internet society still focusing on it, realizing that in many other places in the world, and we are one of the cases, still have to be, don't forget about it. It's good to talk about, in particular also for another aspect, and which Gabriel pointed very well, I mean, to protecting the tattoon and the local culture. I mean, but again, I mean, we don't have a cybersecurity problem or artificial intelligence if the people cannot access to it and the teachers cannot. So we still have to focus, but altogether we can cover the 5 topics, which is the good news, right? And again, non-commercial, but we build infrastructure. So, and I think it's a very important point, because, okay, in the private space, companies maybe compete each other, which is absolutely right. There is nothing wrong on that. But there is also something called a shared economy that can create potentially opportunities for reducing costs and so on. And in our particular case, we advocate also for shared access. I mean, a single fiber can handle almost all the internet that actually happens in Timor-Leste, if it's properly managed. An example of that is the submarine cables reaching the countries, but it could also happen at the last mile. Later on I'm going to explain that, and that's very important to reduce the costs, be competitive, and the main point, whatever infrastructure we are building, in this case for community networks for accessing the last mile, is not competing to anyone, but actually we are advocating for providing to be, I mean, for instance, when we are laying a cable connecting ETGI and another school with GPON, is because we want to make it available to the citizens from the bottom-up perspective, but to the local operators. Actually, I feel sad somehow, because we are installing many Starlinks right now, you know, because it became popular. But that's not, in the long term, that's not the solution. The solution has to be together with the local ISPs who are doing the job and the right, because when you go to Starlink, then we go to overhead, but maybe we are talking between Dili and Gleno. I will give you some examples. And something is wrong if it's cheaper to go to the satellites than to, you know, fiber is so cheap, much cheaper than the cables for electricity, 10 times cheaper and much more durable because it's a kind of plastic. So have in mind on that, it reduces the cost. If we have to go to satellite because it's cheaper, something wrong is happening in the market and could harm the Timor-Leste economy, right? Because it means money that goes away. Okay, having said that, then problems. You know, again, maybe for being very at the last speakers, because it was very nice actually. I enjoyed the talk about electricity and so on, just on that, because yeah, one of the problems, if we are like us, I mean, I usually when I'm Timor-Leste, I'm not in Dili. I mean, in Lawala, and the problems on electricity every day, power cuts and so on. Imagine how you can run an IT infrastructure from that. So, but the good news, and our colleague explained it very well, Timor-Leste is rich in many things, and another thing we are rich is in the sun. Every morning we have a lot of sun, we can charge the batteries, Actually, we charge 80 kilowatts batteries because when we realized that it works for the ICT also, for the residences, and so we bring, and if you size it properly, even you save money, which is good. I mean, if you oversize, then maybe you are spending too much. But if you size properly, because electricity is not cheap, of course, it requires an investment, but makes a lot of sense. And thanks for the examples and the good, because it's really a way, because in Timor-Leste, even, I remember 3 years ago, some people were telling to me, oh, but in the rainy season mount, that will be difficult, and so on. And now there are not only, there are proofs that even in the rainy season, every morning, God gives us with a lot of sun, and maybe the rain is in the afternoon. So it makes sense, okay? And yeah, and the other problem, but now is being addressed. So thanks for to ISOC for this support. This wholesale. And in the beginning, we started getting internet with, you know, SIM cards and so on. In the afternoons, not working. I cannot. I don't have to repeat. You know, you are aware of those problems. Then you know, we use it other ways, but the way to go is submarine cable. So very exciting of the future that it's coming to Timor-Leste right now. Where we have deployed so far until now, I mean, some in Dili. I mean, tomorrow we are going to meet in Academia Musica. It's one of the partners, and here in Fatumeta is right. But majority are within the districts on the country. And okay, there are schools in every in all the territories. So our aim is to be everywhere and open to that. And here are some examples on where we are. And yeah, again, gateways, 4G, satellite, you know, first the traditional, later on, last year, you know, we were able to, before that we were doing with testing, and now we are also using that. But again, I mean, many people say, oh, we have no Starlinks. No, Starlinks appeared last year, and think, oh, that's the way to go. No. I mean, maybe right now it's in some places, if you go in remote areas, of course, you don't have other options, actually. But in a long term, and Timor-Leste actually is not a difficult country in regarding to this aspect, because it's not that big, right? I mean, we can do in a few years, by efficiency, cooperating all together, provide gigabit connections across all the districts. I'm 100% sure for that. To give you an example, where I was coming from, Catalonia is not, maybe it's even bigger than Timor-Leste, and it happened. 20 years ago was not like that, it was like Timor-Leste now in the rural areas. But right now in rural areas you can enjoy 10 gigabits of speed thanks to the fiber, right? And then we are trying to share that internet access to everyone from the schools, of course, with Wi-Fi. And right now, what makes sense for the last mile is the GPON. We enabled a GPON. We have a few examples. For the high end, with Georgia we were talking now, and with GPON you can connect thousands of homes with just a single device, but also we have to design and help on that, and to make smaller ones for places like Manalima. Manalima is in La Cluvar, in Manatuto district, high in the mountains. So there also they deserve GPON technology. Maybe different devices, but we have to go for them. And yeah, we also, as Academia, we are trying to build the tools we need. That, by the way, okay, this is network topology. To just have fun, I mean, the industry, in telecom industry, they used to say, when referring to fiber to the homes, they say FTTH, right? Fiber to the homes. Having fun on that, we are saying fiber from the schools, right? That's FFTS. It's just the difference. So from the schools, we want to reach everyone, but very much is about installing access points, deploying cables, and we already have executed some example. Also, by the way, thanks to the support with APNIC Foundation. And as examples of the infrastructure that we are building, not just cables and GPON and so on, Also, servers, running the software virtualization, and for e-learning and everything. And very much based on open source. Very much not, 100%. So that's very important from our perspective. And going to the security, which is one of the main topics, I actually think that our focus is children, schools, people underage with the internet. So actually we also proactively from the schools, we want to protect our children, not to be exposed too much on the dangers. Actually and we are already doing this kind of stuff. And this example, TLNOG2, is a screenshot that I took from the control panel from one of the schools that is running this kind of shields. And I wanted to point you something. Okay, there were 1 million petitions in a single day, in a very short space, and 9% were unsolicited ads. Typically, this kind of content is not filtered in the internet and don't have to be. Of course, commercials and so on have to be there, and we have nothing against that. But when we have children at the school, we don't want them to be too much exposed to commercial ads trying to influence in they're willing to buy, and so they're getting consumists and so on. When our school is for learning, not to get commercial impacts. And that's 10% of the transit that is already blocked in this case. So what I mean is that when addressing to security is not only crime or violence, which is more evidence. There are other types of content that eventually should be filtered, but being very carefully also protecting the freedom of speech and so on, so not for politics. So it's really something that somehow could get controversial or different point of views. So that's why it's so important to cooperate between the civil society, the academia, and the security forces in order to ensure that we provide, will not work if somebody want to address to this topic alone. We have to do all together. Security is a very, very important thing, right? Because this is the measure in our case, and we are concerned about that because it's about schools and about children. The second threat is the malware, phishing, and so on. And regarding to the threats, not to the internet peering and trusting while doing BGP, but for the end users, and in this case, children. So people trying to inject viruses or make frauds on regarding to that. It's the second most important threat that is happening. And in the school, particular school that is using all open source. Is Linux, so no Windows. Windows is a kind of honeypot that attracts all the viruses. So the numbers could increase as a rocket. So it's really a major thing. So people don't know, and just for browsing the internet and getting tons of ads that were not solicited, there is software that goes to these computers telling this information. And this happens a lot. We are blocking quite more. And then the adult side. Many people say, oh, well, blocking is about adult sites. And of course, in a school, we try, okay, the school is not to watch this kind of content. But what I'm saying, the more obvious crime or this kind of content is not a major threat. There are many others which are somewhat hidden. And this is also an example of what we would like to share, our knowledge and our cooperation with other schools, with other communities, and some other, okay, maybe many other. Of course, blocking the commercials is not of the interest of everyone. I understand that. It's in the interest of the schools, but maybe not for the private companies because it's a source of revenue. We understand that. But it's good to have a good filtering and not just go after the most evident crimes that are happening regarding to security, but also this kind of stuff which is in, those are the things that are happening in the internet. So and that's another reason, to provide shared services in a place like the Timor-Leste Internet Exchange that I hope, I don't know when, I don't want to bet, but if next year, I'm looking to really, so I'm very excited for this coming future. About the servers, okay, having Seferino talk about that. This is all open source. You can do everything. Virtualization. We call it Kalohan Akadémiku, to say the cloud. And Kalohan, why? Because it's in Timor-Leste. This infrastructure can be, we have infrastructure all over the world, cooperating with other communities, but we have infrastructure in Gleno, right? They're working there, and I know that there are other infrastructure running over, so we have to work all together. The only bad thing, now I have to load my presentation there, so I cannot try, but if I try to do the same real-time demo that Warren was trying to do yesterday, from Dili to reach to Gleno, in our case it's even worse. We are not just going to Australia and then Singapore. Because in redEsperansa, although we are using a domain name from Timor-Leste, the AS number that we are using was given by the communities in solidarity from Europe. So it means that goes to, if you look into the trace route path, it goes through Singapore and so on to Marseille in France, and then go to Madrid, Barcelona, just to access the e-learning platform that is in Gleno, but from Dili. Right? And then from Barcelona goes back through tunnels, because we are behind the CGNAT and some kind of that actually I have to feel shame for ourselves for doing it that way. But CERTIC clearly points what should be the next thing to be done in the coming months. Okay, and in the way that Warren was very well describing yesterday evening. And yeah, I don't want to talk more open source, because I mean, having a good community here is what we have to empower, right? Also in the Internet of Things, I mean, raspberries controlling the solar panels for controlling the voltage. I mean, the voltage sometimes in EDTL you were describing very well. It's 100 volts one phase, the other phase is 300 volts, and it breaks everything, all the servers. Even if sometimes, and UPS is not a no, so you want to survive, we have to survive the nights, and it can be done. And we have many developments, so we have to get encouraged to see the improvements that, and work together and cooperate as well. This is the snapshot of, we try to also with using open source, because every hardware vendor for inverters and batteries and so on have their own software, but it's their own. If you change you are using others, they use another one. So we are also trying to use open source to be sure. For instance, here two battery banks. That's why there is two colors. And this is a snapshot taken last week. And last week we already had rains in Gleno. So again, in the morning, a lot of sun. In the afternoon, it slows down very quickly, but we still had enough energy if it's properly sized, and preparing experts trying and advice on that. I can tell us, and it makes economic sense also doing that. The problem is the investment, but it can be done even. I mean, even if you don't get grants, which was our case, we didn't got any grant for doing, but still have economic sense to do it, because I mean, again, electricity is not cheap in Timor-Leste, and we can achieve 100% of self-sufficiency. And okay, training and so on. Tomorrow we will make in the morning we will have a general meeting, following the same spirits, and everyone is invited. Some people, oh, I can get the membership. No, just come, and I mean, it's just a matter of. Behave properly. Everybody can say whatever they want, but with respect to each other. So by following the same, let's say, etiqueta that is, for instance, Internet Societies described, is very welcome for this kind of forum, and that's the local way, and for the education. And in the afternoon we will do practical part, also building the chip-on, using Fusion Splicer. But also starting from the very beginning, I found from the Director General and Fabnik I liked his introduction saying about what's internet is. We will start from that, trying to explain the history, how it's managed and how it's governed, because that thing and understand that in Timor-Leste we can also build the internet, not just be consumers, right? And yeah, well, beneficiaries, I mean, being a schools, and having many, we consider a beneficiary every children that we have in our school. So it's hard to say, but we have to be more, because the target will be, if in Timor-Leste we have nearly 2 million people, those have to be the destinataries of whatever thing we do. And I had a few, and that's why I wanted to change a few slides. Sorry, I wanted to show you a live demo of the Network Operations Center. We call it Panorama. Panorama is what gives us a view of what's happening in the network. We were setting up during the last year, but I cannot do live, but hopefully I have some screenshots. It's a screen in the computer with open source tools that gives an interactive map telling us exactly how is the network in every place. Now we are monitoring around, I will say, 20% of the installation, because we prioritize it to provide the access. Now we are, so why we have internet, that's it. No. Next is provide monitoring access for everybody, and later on the services that I commented, and do the peering, because when we are connecting between schools, again, we are going to Spain, which is not right. And in the map you will see, places like Biqueque, Dilor, and so on. And we can drill down and we can see each, people who are used to manage networks know what I'm talking about. So it's about providing the same tools, but in this case, to the schools and to the community. And then have maps. This is a school in Dilor, in Biqueque. So it's very far from here, but we can see how are their access points and call the teacher, hey, do you realize that there is one access point not working there, and so on. That's very powerful, and provide these kind of services to them. And lastly, and now finishing, is something that I wanted to share, because, and because I have seen in other countries, and those are the pictures that I want to say. This picture comes from Ubud. You know Ubud in Bali? It's one of the most touristic places, and this is the bridge. So 10 years ago, were only trees, marvelous, and one of the biggest attraction points in Bali. Now, more than trees, what do you see? Cables. It's a disaster. Much more cables than actually people are in Ubud enjoying them. It's real. It's not artificial intelligence. I tell you, I took that picture personally. If you want to go to Ubud, you will see. Okay. Even more funny than that, this is also Ubud. At the same place, there are a lots of, you see, posts at the same place. I mean, the most expensive part when deploying fiber is the post, because sometimes it's metal, it's civil work that you have to do. The cable itself is cents per meter. And the cable of fiber is grams, much less weight than electricity cable, 10 times lighter. So finally, they installed several posts. One for, why those posts? Oh, because competition doesn't make so. Okay, but it's happening. It's real picture. It's not artificial intelligence that you make a false picture. It's absolutely true. This other picture, because it's very common by the way, not only I have nothing against the Indonesians, but if you go to other ASEAN countries, you will see something like that. If you go to Darwin, it will be completely different, or to New Zealand. But here is Malacca. It's also another touristic place from an ASEAN country, not far from Indonesia, actually very next, but just on the other part of the street of Malacca. And Malacca is also the touristic place, the historical touristic place for Malaysia, right? And it's different. Yeah, I didn't took a picture to the, if you have been in Kuala Lumpur, tall buildings, everything crystal is like you are in the 23rd century or something like that. But I'm going to Malacca, the historical place when the cables have to be aerial because no ducts and so on. And there are a few cables, you see them? There are a few, but not that much more ordered. So you may think, okay, maybe the people in Indonesia are much more well connected than the people in in Malaysia. But actually, the reality is that, and get those, I'm going to take pictures from, but again, I mean, this is Colmera last week, Timor-Leste. 5 years ago was not like that. Were not that many cables, and that. Oh, sorry. Oh, can I get the picture again? I mean, because I want to comment that. It's hidden by the. But this is the cable. Some cables go simply over the floor. Right in Colmera Street, not to go so far. Why I'm saying that? I'm sorry because I don't want to. I'm just trying to point the problem, not to be just critic and so on, and because it's important to do the things better. Because if you look to what's happening in every country in terms of service and cost, you realize that Indonesia is much cheaper than here, but Malaysia is even better, and the service that commercial available to the citizens are much higher in terms of speed and so on. But it seems, no cables. But the cables are there. They are doing, the difference is doing it with a bit more, let's say, responsibility. And responsibility from all of us. That's why I'm saying, I don't know how you call it, in Europe we call overbuilding. It's spending too much money. I mean, having more cables or more cost doesn't make a touristic place more sexy, of course. But actually, it's harmful for many things. I mean, in terms of materials, we are consuming impact to the planet, and the most important, in the cost. Then the things become much more expensive because you are spending 10 times what you have to spend. So at the end of the day, telcos want to be profitable and need to reduce the costs. And the best way to reduce the cost is not to have a road for everyone, but use a good road that everyone uses. We need a good road from going to Dili to Gleno. Whoever takes roads in Timor, they know what I'm talking about. The roads is a problem. But it's not a matter of doing more roads. It's a matter of doing a good roads with a good maintenance that everybody uses the road. 4 years ago was one fiber cable going from Dili to Gleno. Now I think it's every year I'm seeing more cables there. But more cables that actually people using, because in Gleno, I still have to go to the Elon Musk, that by the way, I mean, is already the most rich people in the world, because having no other alternatives. So that's what we have to, it clearly describes what has to be our objective in the very next future. It's good to become a part of ASEAN, but will be the advice here, or the most important, in particular when things get liberalized, is to be competitive. And overbuilding impacts the landscape. Timor-Leste landscape is very wonderful. Actually, it's one of the biggest assets because it's in many aspects is virgin. But if we end like Ubud and we destroy one of our biggest assets, which is our landscape, that will be sad. And we are on time for acting. And altogether I mean administration, government, regulators, but also we as citizens and academia and the operators, local operators, we have to work, and we have to ensure that Timor-Leste becomes competitive, because if not, I mean, if everybody installs Starlinks, that will be a disaster for the country, because it means that we are not doing the things properly, because Warren pointed very well yesterday. The cheaper way to send information right now, and the best technology, is the fiber and local. If we do the things local and we do the things properly, Timor-Leste will be competitive. If we have to go to the low orbit Earth and things like that, and something wrong we are doing, because it's not a big country. We can do very quickly, and actually the infrastructure is already there. So sorry for maybe I speak too much, but I think I'm done. The very last slides were, looking forward for peering, wholesale, having neutral XP in Timor-Leste. better energy, of course. And happy to take questions. Sorry for being that long. I don't know if I think we are a bit delayed on time, but again, I mean, today it was one of my happiest day in my life. I'm in my 60s, so that's my honest confession that I want to share with you.
Thank you very much, Ramon, for presenting us the very wonderful presentation. Before we move on, I'll let MC.
Thank you. Thank you, Mang Ramon, Senior Ramon. Please stay there, and then we have some gift to give to you. Mount Fabio. Mount Mananoni, can you come to represent us? Brigada, ita agora break ba coffee break for 15 minutes.
We are quite
Yeah.
behind the schedule, so let's go have coffee and then back here in 50 minutes.
We will start again at 4:15 at Kolega Sira, sebele karek 15 minutes loss tambah tempo. Hela det oras sida per tukulima ita tu fila uma. Brigada.